Hey everybody, welcome back to Art Smart. Today we're going to be talking about Pingu. Pingu, for those of you who don't know, is a animated series that was created at first using claymation, and it was created during the late part of the 1980s and into the 1990s. It originated in Switzerland, and other episodes were made for the British market in Japan in the early 2000s. Now, this particular series is oftentimes called by people online a clone of Gumby because it is made in the claymation style. This is really not a fair association, in my opinion. The reason why I say that is Gumby is a character that is really based upon surreal stories, such as Gumby helping a musical note find its way back to its original song, or Gumby jumping through a book, and speaking to book characters, kind of surreal stories. While Pingu really isn't like that at all. This is more of a character that is based upon traditional day-to-day life stories just by a penguin family, and Pingu goes through normal things that kids do when they grow up. He tries to skip school one day by faking sick. He has arguments with his little sister all the time. He breaks a window by accident by playing baseball outside with his friends. That kind of thing. So this is definitely not the same kind of series. So just because they're using a similar style of animation doesn't really mean that they have a whole lot in common. This is a very different series. It's a sweet series, and it's one that's good for little kids. And the great thing about Pingu is this particular character speaks in what they call Pinguese or Penguinese, and this character doesn't have any real dialogue. They're just kind of doing these mutterances, which have these recurring sounds that you can kind of catch on to after a while. Like he goes newt newt a lot. He says a sound that sounds kind of like Route 40, and the other little utterances that he does a lot, but in general it's gibberish. So the reason why I bring this up, though, is pretty much any country that you stay in can enjoy Pingu because this character doesn't speak any particular language. So he's a very universal character, and so he's been pretty successful around the world. Here in the United States, not nearly as much. I think that's probably because kids today have all kinds of options, especially here in the United States, and there's a lot of talking and quick dialogue going on in kids' cartoons today, and this is very much the opposite. These are basically pantomime characters, and the gibberish is just there for, just for amusement. Now, if you are going to watch these, I would say that this is probably going to be best for pretty young kids, probably like, I don't know, first grade is kind of when they're going to start transitioning out. And I think that's a shame because for the most part, that's just because kids today are hyper and they have to just constantly have things happening on the screen and they have to constantly have dialogue. So the average kid will probably lose interest in this after like I said, first grade. However, I think this should be pretty good for kids of really any age. In fact, as an adult, I think these are enjoyable to sit and watch for a few minutes. Now, because the stories are very simple and it's usually based upon things that young children go through, you will probably lose interest after a few minutes, or I'm sorry, a few cartoons, and these are about 5 minutes each. So you're probably not going to be enthralled by it, but it's perfectly fine to watch for a few minutes, and it's certainly better than most of the crap that you're going to see on TV, especially for kids. So it's definitely enjoyable, but I don't think you're going to last terribly long as an adult, and most kids, as they get older, are probably going to be bored because of the fact, that they have just faster options today. But that's not really a knock on them. I think it's unfair to say that older kids can watch this, because really older kids can. This particular one that I have here, this case, is from China. It originally was given to me by my parents because they used it for other grandkids that they had in the early 2000s. This particular case probably came out in the 1990s, late 1990s, and was purchased by my family in the early 2000s, and so that's why it's VHS. I do not have DVD, but apparently there are DVDs out there. The VHSs here are fine, except the fact that the story takes place in the Arctic. So when you are looking at these cartoons, which have a lot of kind of white backgrounds, the fact that VHS can be kind of soft and sometimes be a little washed out means that it's extra washed out because there's too much white on the screen. So in general, if you can get it on DVD, I would, because it would be crisper. By the way, there are, like I said, 2 different versions of Pingu, and the 2 different versions are slightly different. I like the original because the stories, I think, are a little bit more universal. I think that it's a little lazy later on with some of their storytelling. And I also think that the original Pingu voice actor was just a little bit more entertaining than the secondary crew that came on for the second wave. The second wave isn't bad, I just don't think it's nearly as good as the first. I will also say, if you get these VHS tapes, for some reason, if you find this, keep in mind, for some reason, these have weird time frames on them. Some of these are like less than 15 minutes long. Some of them are half an hour. One of these is over an hour. So I really have no idea why they have such weird variety for this particular set. It does look like that there are different VHS tapes that have been attached to the set. So maybe they just kind of took random selections of VHSs that were out there and repackaged them. I'm not really sure, but so if you buy this and you're putting it on for your kids, don't think that you can put it on and you're going to have an hour on each video. Nope, sometimes you're going to have a whole lot less than that. Plus, by the way, like I said, most kids are probably not going to be entertained for that long with this, especially if they're older. So, would I pick up Pingu on VHS? I'd probably skip it on VHS. It's certainly nice for me to have it here. I would get it on DVD. In general, I would say that Pingu is worth your time, though. I think it's enjoyable. It's good. It's not Gumby. And it is definitely more appealing to an adult than your average kid cartoon. Hopefully this makes you a little bit more art smart and you'll get out there and get yourself some good animation. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.